Okay. Today we're going to look at, we talked about socialism already. We're going to kind of look at communism, which is a little bit more extreme version of socialism. So remember, socialism, not a form of government. All it is a political philosophy and economic system in which a government wants to basically control the economy and how their economy is going to work within their country. With communism, what we see is a completely um, in total control the government is of the economy. Okay, it's basically the government, the political system, the economy, everything rests in the power of the power rests in the hands of the government. Okay, and typically when we see these, they are going to, for the most part, require very strict obedience to whoever's in charge. So they're typically authoritarian. So think of North Korea, for example, is really like the last true, somewhat communist state out there. You've all heard the stories and the crazy things that come, they come out of North Korea in the propaganda. But there is one central figure who is in charge, and that's Kim Jong Un. So he's in charge, and nobody else can really rival him in his power. That's that true authoritarian state where he basically has the final say in whatever happens in that country. Very, very different to what we have here in the United States, where we have president, but then we also have Congress, we have the Supreme Court, we have all these checks and balances that our leaders must go through in order to get things done. Typically in communism, you don't see that. At the end of the day, whoever's in charge, they're the ones that basically get to make the final yes or no decisions. Okay, so what we normally see, okay, when you nationalize something, okay, so nationalized healthcare, okay, what that does is it takes it from a private ownership or a private business, so all those private health insurance companies that we have, and it basically takes their ownership away from the country, away from that company, and it gives it to the government, okay? Basically, so if you owned a private business, now the government owns that business. You no longer own the business, okay? To nationalize. To privatize would be the opposite way. So that would be going from government control to private control. Um, we don't, we do see privatization happen quite a bit, but for the most part, when you're talking about socialism and then even the more uh, hardcore stance of communism, we mostly see nationalizing of companies taking place, where the government is taking over control, so that there is not private companies out there making billions of dollars. It's basically so the government can control it all and decide, who gets these products, how much are we going to make, who are we making it for, how are we making it, answering, those three main questions. So, an example of a centrally planned economy that we see today, Sweden. Okay, Sweden is not a communist country, but Sweden does have lots of socialism. Okay, and then when we get to North Korea, you can see the difference. So in Sweden, okay, a third of all the companies are owned by the government. So that means a third of all the companies have been nationalized, owned by the government. Okay, in doing so, their citizens receive what we call cradle to grave benefits. So these are benefits that, if you are a citizen of that country, you have access to all of these benefits. Okay, basically until you die. So what they offer, okay, childcare, ages 1 to 5. Basically, in Sweden, it starts at age 1, because if you have a child, you can have up to a year off of work, that maternity leave, and still receive a partial paycheck. You don't receive your full paycheck, but you can take up to a year off after you've had a child. Then basically you get to send your kid to daycare for free. Okay, they have public education just like we do, and then they either send you to your standard university or some sort of trade school where you're going to learn a skill, a trade that you can do the rest of your life. Okay, so all that, again, provided for by the government. Healthcare, dental, paid time off for raising families, pensions, all of this is brought to you by the government. Okay, all these things you do not pay out of your own pocket for these things. So you do not have to write a check. You don't have to swipe your credit card to pay for these prescriptions, pay for your health care, pay for schooling, or anything. Okay, now, like we've talked about, okay, when people want the government to pay for things, well, the government only has one way to get money, and that's through tax dollars. So what we see, okay, in return to get all these benefits, the government has to tax people more. Okay, so the highest tax bracket in Sweden is around 60%. Okay, so for example, here in the United States, it's a little under 40. It's right about 38%. So if you made $1 million in the United States, you would pay $380,000 in taxes. Okay, $380,000. All right, you would keep, what is that, $620,000 at the end of your taxes. In Sweden, let's say you make $1 million, you could pay up to $600,000 and you keep $400,000. Okay, that's the difference. If the government's going to provide health care, child care, free college, all of these things, the government still has to pay all those workers. So all these daycare workers, all these professors, these schools, all that stuff has to be paid for. The doctors, the surgeons, everybody. Okay, it has to be paid for. No, you're not directly paying for it, out of your own pocket, but you are indirectly paying for it through tax dollars. Okay, indirectly paying for it. So, what if you didn't want to, or you don't have kids? Let's say you never have kids when you're older. You're paying tax dollars so somebody else can send their kid to daycare. Okay. Whereas here in the United States, if you choose not to have kids, you do not pay for daycare. It's as simple as that. If you choose not to send your kids to college, or you choose not to go to college, you're not paying for somebody else to go, which is what kind of happens here in this society, because it's all for the greater good. So everybody pays in, even if you don't fully benefit from that particular benefit, like daycare. Okay, if you're a fairly healthy person and don't go to the doctor very often, you're paying for that person that refuses to take care of themselves and needs lots of medical attention. Okay, so when you start doing this, when you start nationalizing these companies, it starts to take away some of the freedom that you have here in America, where you can kind of pick and choose where you put your money. Okay. It also, on the positive side, provides all of these amenities and these benefits that some people can't afford in the United States. Okay. So there's pros, but there's definitely cons. Okay. There's both sides of it. And that's why it's always a great debate. Okay. So as we go further and further and you see communism, okay, communism, again, the fully controlled economy, no private business at all. Okay. Positives for communism: does seek to provide for everybody. Okay. In these market economies and things like that, average people or people that can't afford things can get left behind. Okay. Under communism, it does seek to provide something for everybody. Okay. But as we've seen time and time again, when communism has been implemented, it fails over time. Okay. One of the great things that pushes the United States in the free world is the idea of the incentive. If you want to go out and better yourself, you can better your life. You can make more money. You can get a better job. If you go get a better education, you can move up in the world. What happens under communism is we don't see that, okay? Because the whole system is designed to make everybody equal, okay? The government's in charge and make every single person equal. So what you end up seeing, shortages of goods. There's no incentive to work hard. Why work hard when I'll get the same as you? Okay? There's nothing driving you to want to practice or want to go get an education. If everybody was going to get equal playing time in a game, regardless of how much they practiced, where would be the incentive to practice? It wouldn't be there. If everybody was going to go to work and get paid the same amount of money, whether you showed up, whether you worked hard, whether you were lazy, everyone gets the same. There's no incentive. Okay, it's not going to drive people to better themselves. Okay, so one of the ways the Soviet Union tried to do this, okay, was to set up what they called collectives. So now you have to think about the time. Okay, this was early 1900s, so farming and factories were still very, very popular. Okay, so what they would do is they set up these collectives, basically these large farms that were not private farms. These were all owned by the government. And basically, the government would divvy up the land and get everybody a fair piece of land for them to cultivate. Okay. When everybody was done, instead of whoever did the best, like here in America, would make more money and control their destiny, everyone got the same amount. So that's basically saying, all right, we're going to take a quiz. You study for it, you make a 95. Half the class doesn't study and fails, and I give everybody the same average. Let's say the average was a 70. Well, everybody gets a 70 now. Those people that made above a 70 are going to kind of be mad because they're like, why? I put some effort in. I tried hard. Why am I getting a 70? The people that slacked off, they're going to be excited. Okay. They're going to take that 70 and run. Okay. Because they know they didn't earn it. All right. So what's going to happen as it goes forward? Well, those people that studied and got that 95, eventually they're going to get to the point and say, well, why am I studying? Why am I working so hard? Okay. If I'm just going to get the same as everybody else, why work? Okay. And that's what we see happen. Okay. Same thing happens in these industries. Okay. People were guaranteed a job. You were guaranteed to get paid because the government's going to do it for you. Okay. So why work hard? Why would you want to work hard and improve yourself? If you could never make your way up and eventually maybe own this factory one day, which you would never get to do because there's no private business, why would you want to do it? Okay, eventually you're going to say, what am I doing? You're going to say, I'm just not going to work hard anymore because where's my incentive to work hard? Okay. And here's just a few photos. Okay, farming, factories, again, military, big time with the Soviet Union. Okay, Cold War. So if you were a Soviet consumer, you would go to the store. And again, there's not a lot of incentive for people to work hard. So typically you had, you know, scarce resources, not good quality. And think about it. When you go to the store today in the United States, you're getting the best of the best. Why is that? Well, because there's competition. So all those businesses know and those companies know, I better make a really good product so people will buy my product. When the government's providing it for you, who are they competing against? They're not competing against anybody. So they can make it as cheaply and kind of, basically crappy as they want because who do they have to compete against? And at the end of the day, if they make shoes and they make them all, boots and they're all black and they're size 9, no other sizes, you might not really like that, but can the government, what are you going to say? The government provided you with what they said they would. They said they would provide you with shoes. They never said they had to be your favorite color or even your size. They just said, we will provide you with everything you need. We provide you with shoes. Okay. So Soviet consumers, really tough time getting the things they need. Really tough time. And again, this just leads to the overall just sadness and, lack of standard of living, very low self-esteem, and people just didn't want to live there. That's why they tried to escape. Okay. North Korea is the best example we have left of true communism. Okay. And even they're not 100% communism anymore. But again, what we see in North Korea, super, super basically authority to the government. You do not question the leader. Very, very big emphasis on the military and propaganda, spreading that information and controlling the masses with what they want them to know and what they want them to think. We're going to watch a video kind of the rest of the week talking about the propaganda and how these individuals and how the government, basically can control what they think.